Twitter. Yeah, when we had a May 10th lunch, I asked Kyle Langham to compile some data on Entrepot and NFT transactions, and it turns out, I don't know if you've seen this part, but it turns out that the transaction volume was $28.5 million from like in the whole history of Entrepot, like 7 months at that point.
Wow.
And with its $28 million, users paid $110 in transaction fees. So $610.
Oh, that's nothing. That's so small.
It's 208,000 transactions, and people paid a bit above $600 in total for transaction fees.
Wow.
On ETH, that can be one transaction.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, people paid more than $600 for transactions when some.
Oh yeah, there's the other side NFTs. I remember it was like going for 2 ETH just to pay the gas fees, and people were like not even going through. The transactions were not going through. So.
And they lost the gas. Yeah.
And I think they actually repaid them back in the end, but still, it's quite high. Or I guess if you bought the NFT, then you don't get your gas back, which is. It's the people who failed to get it, they got their gas back, I believe.
Yeah. Welcome our guests. We are going to start in a minute. So. But it was a fun story for sure. And also the IC actually hosts your NFTs. So the data lives on the blockchain, which is not an insignificant detail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Entrepot has now more than 250 gigabytes of assets stored on chain.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's quite impressive.
That is crazy. 250 gigabytes stored on blockchain.
Cool. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, we have a few gigabytes already with like our
really.
Yeah, but 250 is quite a accomplishment. We'll get there. We'll definitely get there.
All right, shall we begin? What say you? Let's go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Supernova workshop. My name is Andrew, and I work at Dfinity as a developer relations engineer. Today's session is being recorded, and it will be available on our YouTube channel later. Today, our guest is Raheel Govindji, the founder of MODCLUB. If you haven't heard of MODCLUB before, it is one of the most interesting and fascinating platforms running on the internet computer currently. The team has built a decentralized content moderation and proof of humanity service for Web3 that any dapp on the IC can integrate with. Nuance, for example, a Web3 blog engine running on the IC, has already successfully integrated and currently using MODCLUB for their moderation. There may be others that I don't know about, but that escaped my attention, which I hope we'll hear about from Raheel. Raheel, thank you very much for coming on, and please take it away.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. Yeah, I'll get right into it. So my name is Raheel. I'm founder of MODCLUB. A little bit about me is I'm an engineer. I have been for over a decade, and I've worked in kind of different areas in the tech industry, such as AI, security, fintech, and some other ones. I just got interested in the IC, heard about it during the launch, and coming from a traditional tech background, I saw that there was just huge similarities between what you can do in Web 2 and then Web 3 on the IC. You can build out pretty sophisticated platforms, and so that just got me more interested and started to like tinker around and build different things. And I'm just going to share my screen.
As Angela said in the chat, if you have any questions, please type it in, and I'll interrupt Raheel and read it out. And in the meantime, I'll read out my own questions as well.
Okay, great. So that brings us to MODCLUB. So MODCLUB is a decentralized moderation as a service. For our talk today, or my presentation, here are the things that I'll be going over. An overview of what MODCLUB is the problem and the solution that we're trying to solve. I'll give a demo of our proof of humanity, our content moderation solutions, give you an idea of what it looks like from a developer standpoint with the admin dashboards. If you integrate with us, how do you manage MODCLUB on your side? And then in the end, I'll show how you can build a simple API for your own products or your app, so other applications can integrate with you. So MODCLUB's mission is to clean up Web3. The problem that we're seeing today is it's a challenge for platforms to prevent bad actors from damaging the culture, the reputation, and the user experience for these platforms. Bad actors can be categorized as bots, spammers, fudders, and malicious users who are trying to game some kind of system using scripts or what have you. The costs are high to moderate content and verify users because of limited resources, for example, like either development resources or even staff resources to actually moderate this content. And then also the experience. So if you have a moderator team on board, you still need to do the training and education for those moderators to actually be able to moderate content. And then building out your own moderation system can be biased and also complicate the user experience. If a user comes into your platform and you also have a fully fledged moderation tool within it, are they coming into this application to enjoy your experience, or are they here to come work, right? So you kind of split your user base and maybe dilute that experience a little bit. And so we came up with MODCLUB, which is a decentralized moderation platform, and it's fully on-chain. Everything that you do or interact with on MODCLUB today is stored on the IC using ACID canisters and what have you. Users are rewarded to verify humanity or moderate UGC data or user-generated content, and thus, protecting the reputation and the trust that the decentralized platforms are trying to gain from their community. And so at the bottom here, the applications themselves can earn trust from the community. They will save money on user-generated content moderation and user verification because they don't have to build it themselves or have staff on hand. And then moderators are incentivized to participate because they receive rewards and other various benefits. So, like I said earlier, when I was kind of introducing myself, we decided that the internet computer is the best place to kind of build this. It really is one of the first blockchains that has the capability to do content moderation in a quick and easy fashion. There have been other competitors on Ethereum and VeChain and other ones, but not everything is stored on chain. The costs are very high to do any kind of like storing any data, and then just interacting with the moderation systems is a cost to actually the moderators themselves. With the IC, being a moderator is free. You don't have to do anything. All assets are stored on chain, and it's very, very cost effective. So I'm going to start with our proof of humanity solution and kind of talk about what it does, how an application kind of would integrate with us, and kind of the benefits that it offers to both end users and decentralized applications. So when a user wants to do their proof, when an application wants to verify a person is a human. So we can see on the left here, we have a user who's signing up for an application, a decentralized application. What they can do is they can check with MODCLUB if this user has done a proof of humanity in the past. MODCLUB will use the unique ID passed by the application to see if there was a proof of humanity done in the past. And if so, it will send like, hey, yes, you've done proof of humanity. If not, the application is asked by MODCLUB to send the user to go to MODCLUB to perform the proof of humanity checks that are in place. So our proof of humanity solution is modular, meaning that you as an application developer can decide what proof of humanity, what we call challenges, you want the user to do. And each challenge will verify some aspects of a person's humanity, and you can, but not all of them, will give away someone's identity, perhaps. The more, proof you want that a user is a human, the more challenges you can stack up in the process. And I'll go through that, the actual process, so it's a little bit more clear to everyone. But to give you an example of a challenge, one would be like a profile picture challenge or a video challenge where you have to say a unique phrase. And one that may be more anonymous would be like an audio challenge, where you say a unique phrase, but you only use your voice, or drawing a picture with unique shapes on a piece of paper and then showing that to the screen. And so let me just quickly go through what the proof of humanity process looks like from an end user and then also from the moderator side. So I'm just going to exit this. Okay, so I'm just going to log into MODCLUB here, and this is a user who is signed up but hasn't done the proof of humanity process yet for MODCLUB. So you see here that there's a message saying, hey, you have to submit your proof of humanity, so please do so now. And as this loads, there we go. Okay, so here's the proof of humanity kind of flow. It's very similar to like what you'd see in a KYC process from an exchange, but it is modular. So at the top here, you see all these steps. So one is please provide your picture. The other one is please provide a video saying these words. And then there can be more or less. So these are what I was mentioning before is the proof of humanity challenges. So you can configure these as a decentralized application to fit your needs for what you want your users to do in order to prove that they're a human. So I'm just going to take a picture real quick. And like I said before, that everything is stored on chain. So that picture will be stored on chain. Okay, so this is the unique video, the video challenge with the unique phrase. So all I have to do is record myself saying these 6 words. And these words are generated dynamically, randomly for every user. So no 2 users will have the same phrase. Sore, cute, tile, dead, blue, dead. I mean, that's not the the nicest unique phrase.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. So now I'm going to be uploading that video. And once it's complete, it says, thank you for submitting your proof of humanity and please check back soon. And so now the user just has to wait for the moderators in MODCLUB to go and review that content. So I'm going to go over to another window. And we are going to go to the human verification section. To refresh because my token might have expired. Oh, wrong window. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So you can see that I've submitted my proof of humanity 40 seconds ago. And so this is another user's account. This is not the same one that just submitted, just to be clear. So here you're seeing the kind of moderator view of proof of humanity. And so each of these kind of blocks here are the different challenges that the user submitted. And each of these also have requirements for them. So that the submitter has to comply with. So in this case, the requirements here are, the person's face is well lit. You can see their face clearly. They're not wearing a mask or any covering for their face. So you can confirm that. And then also here's the video. So want to confirm the user said sore, cute, tile, dead, blue, dead. Perfect. Nice shot. But then, so then the requirements here are very similar, but you can also have challenges that are dependent on each other. So for instance, this one says the person in the video is the same person in the picture above, right? And so we can confirm that. The person says all the words correctly. And then also the person does not appear to be an AI generated, deepfake or anything. It looks like a real person. And so after that, I click submit, and then I just have to make a few more confirmations. So I confirm that this is a real person. And then I understand that I might lose some tokens if I vote incorrectly. And so I'll speak a little bit more about that when we get to the content moderation side, but our voting mechanism we use a voting mechanism that kind of encourages truthful voting. And so there is kind of a risk reward system in place.
I have a question. So is there some mechanism in place that would stop a user randomly uploading videos? I guess you would have to somehow signal the video into the camera, but randomly try this 100 times, and then people would, or moderators would have to decline all these 100 users or thousands or so on.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So how do we prevent users from submitting malicious content or submitting too many times to attack the system? So when we have our tokenomics in place, we will be able to basically have a fee for the user to actually submit the content, which they can be returned back after the submission has been either rejected or approved. But if we detect within our system that it was a malicious user, they lose that amount that they've deposited. That way, someone who tries to game the system and tries to flood or spam our backend systems will taking the risk that they're going to lose some value or some of their money. So that's one thing we have in place. Another thing we do is we limit the size of the videos that can be submitted. So you can't just like send gigabytes of data, et cetera. We don't, like, these videos are only 3 to 4 megabytes. So we limit that as well. I think in the future, we'll have other mechanisms in place, like perhaps, if we can grab the IP address of the users, we can block them before they can, like if we see a multiple request from the same individual making those kind of requests. But those are kind of things that we will, as we scale, we'll have more security mechanisms in the future.
But I think this works well to begin with, the deposit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so any more questions on that? So right now, what you see here, so now I have voted, but now there requires 3 more votes for this in order to actually complete. So, but once that user, is finished with the voting, they will be able to access MODCLUB, right? And they've completed those 2 proof of humanity checks. Now, if a user, if that same user goes to, say, Nuance or someone else that has the exact same, that requires the same proof of humanity checks, they won't have to do that again. You can reuse the, going back to my slide, is that it's a one-time verification. Essentially, you can reuse the proof of humanity challenge you've done in the past across applications. So yeah, another good thing is that proof of humanity can be used, for a product like if you're running an NFT whitelisting system, and you want to, validate or ensure that the users are not bots. You can use the proof of humanity beforehand to do a check, so that they verify that they are an actual person before you grant them access to the whitelist. So that's a good kind of product, or a solution to a problem that we're seeing today in the ecosystem. Okay. So content moderation. So content moderation is another product that we're offering. And how that works is applications, decentralized applications like Nuance and others send us content, posts that they want to be reviewed by our moderator community. So it's fairly simple. Like the application just has to send us either text, an image, even we support HTML, and they can configure how many votes that they want on a specific piece of content before it gets approved or rejected. And they can also set another parameter, which is what is the required amount of tokens, mod tokens, that the user needs to have staked in order to vote. So the reason why we do that is when you stake tokens, you are also locking them up essentially, and they can be slashed if you vote incorrectly. And so when I mentioned it before, is we have this this mechanism, the voting mechanism, which we use is called the shelling game mechanism, which is a fairly popular mechanism that other moderation platforms use. But basically, it encourages truthfulness, and it's very simple, is that if you vote in the majority, you gain a reward. And if you vote in the minority, you get slashed. So the more, you have at stake, and the more you have at stake, the more reward you can get, but then also the more more you can lose. And we found that this works very well in terms of our already kind of experience with moderation for nuance. And other platforms like Claros, Jur, et cetera, use very similar mechanism. And so once enough moderators review the content, if it gets approved or rejected, a notification is sent back to the application, decentralized application, of the result of that moderation. And so they can use that result to either remove the content, ban the user, or what have you. And there are a few ways that an application could use MODCLUB. Either they do it, they could send every post to us that they have, which might, will end up being fairly costly over time. They could send possibly the first few posts that a new user, after a new user is created, they could send the first few posts that the user has done. And then, after they've been validated for like 3 or 4 times, then, they can proceed without sending us every single thing. Or if another user within their platform flags the content, then it can be sent to MODCLUB. So there's a few ways that you can use MODCLUB as an application developer, and that we leave that up to you.
In the meantime, we have a few questions in the chat. So yeah, if an app adds extra pieces, would you only have to do the delta or the whole?
If an app, sorry, can you repeat that?
If an app adds extra pieces, would you have to only do the delta or the whole? I think it's a question with regards to what is the moderation that you would have to do as a new user. Maybe the person can clarify. But I guess to try to answer the question, I imagine it would work in a way that once a post has been approved by moderators, then anyone new who signs in to moderate wouldn't have to look at the posts that have already been approved by others.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So once something has been approved or rejected, it won't show up in your feed. If that's the question, I'm not 100% confident I understood it, but a little bit more on how the moderation system works is we also use a randomized task distribution. So you as a moderator may not see the exact same tasks that someone else does. So sometimes even in our Discord, people are like, oh, there's a new post, and then others might not see it. It's because you're receiving these tasks randomly, and that kind of prevents a Sybil attack. So multiple users can't gain, or a user can't gain multiple accounts and then try to vote in a specific direction. It'd be randomized. If that kind of maybe answers that question. But yeah, if the person can clarify a little bit more, then I can answer again. But let me proceed into just the demo that I was going to do.
We have more questions. You want to go on, or? I think actually you answered some of them. So the next question would be how to avoid the majority echo chamber. And maybe this randomizer that you laid out is the solution for that.
The majority echo chamber. So yeah, exactly. So if you do have a majority, let's say you own a majority of accounts for some reason, the odds that especially as we grow in terms of user base, the odds that you receive, and content also, the odds you receive the same task amongst your accounts is going to be a lot smaller. And that kind of prevents those types of attacks. Should I jump into the demo that I was, or should we answer some more questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Shoot.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to show basically the end-to-end flow from posting on Nuance to getting it, going to MODCLUB, getting it reviewed, and then rejected. So I'm just going to log in here.
Okay, I can ask a quick question. How many mods do you have?
So we have a few hundred. They all kind of work in parallel. Some are a little bit more active than others. Usually the average time to get something moderated is like 30 seconds. If, there's a lot of active users, sometimes it can take longer. But so far, we have seen with just a small user base, tasks are being completed very quickly, and that's kind of an issue right now. Is like we have such great moderators that there's not enough tasks right now to moderate. So as we grow, that will hopefully a lot of users will have a lot more stuff to moderate. Yeah. So I'm going to do a quick post on Nuance. This is a test environment, so it's not going to show up on the real Nuance. And I'm going to just do a picture.
You would have so many tests on Nuance if it did show up. I can imagine.
Please reject this post. We'll say this is art, and I'm going to publish it. Okay, great. So now if I go back to the main page, it will show up. So now let's go back to MODCLUB, and we're going to go to the task section. And so here you can see that same post got sent to MODCLUB, and I can click into it. I can get more information about it. And then I can also say, I want to reject it. So the rules for Nuance are here on the side if you want to review them here. But also when you do a rejection, you actually have to clarify or specify what rule actually has been broken. In this case, I'll just say violence, just because it's simple, and I'm going to submit my decision. And so this needs 2 votes here. So I'm going to switch over to another account just to vote. And in the demo environment, there's no task randomization. That's why I can see everything. And I can do the rejection from the main screen too here, and I can submit my decision. So now that we have the majority of voters voting to reject this, the post has been removed from MODCLUB. And then if I go back to Nuance, if we click into this post, it's going to say rejected by moderators. Okay, so that shows you kind of like end to end and what kind of happens behind the scenes if your post gets rejected on Nuance. And then let's go back to my presentation. Okay, so now we're gonna actually, any questions so far before I jump into I see a lot of messages in the chat. So
we had a minor chat technical problems, but we can ignore chat for now, and then we'll come back to it later.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to now just kind of jump into a technical kind of deep dive about how you can actually do an integration similar to what we did with Nuance, and build out an SDK / API for your application. So it makes it a little bit easier for other applications to integrate with you. So what I've done is I have taken this phone book example from Definity's code examples, and I've extended it slightly. And so so I've added like some other subscription code and some other things, but basically it's the same code. And let's just say that this is our main application. This is our canister, this will be our main canister, and it supports, let me just zoom in here a little bit more, but it supports an insert and a lookup. So you can insert a name with a phone number and description, and then you can look up that name, okay? So let me just show you what that application looks like right now. Sorry. Let's go there. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me just go to here. There we go. So this is the deployed application, and I'm going to just insert a name, Jim's phone number. So we'll insert. Okay, insert. And now I can look up Jim's number. Pretty simple, pretty basic. Great. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have another application. We're going to build out an SDK or / API for this application so that it can insert or look up names into our existing phone book service. So I copied over the same project, but now we're missing the actual implementation of the insert and lookup methods. So, sorry, one second. So what we're going to do is we're going to just create a SDK folder. So what you would do, most likely would be create a separate project, call it SDK. But for ease of import in the demo, we're just going to create a new folder called SDK. And within it, we're going to create a new file. I'm going to call it api.mo. And so this is where we're going to define kind of the interface so that other applications can call into the phone book. So I'm going to create a new module. And I'm going to have to actually define an actor type that will be used in order to call back into the original application. So I'm going to call this type phone book actor. And let's just, for ease, let's just look at the interface of our API here. And so you have to define the actor using Candid. And so there are other ways also to interface with the canister, but this is an easier and fairly quick and easy way to kind of expose interfaces for your canister. But what we want to do is basically define this interface that the phone book supports, but using Candid. So it supports a name lookup. Sorry, it supports the parameters are a name, and it also is an entry. And it returns nothing, I believe. Yeah. And then the other method would be lookup. And so it takes a name. And this returns back an optional entry. Now you notice that we don't actually have name and entry defined. So a quick and dirty way to do that is just copy over the types from your main canister into this so that those are defined later on. Okay, so now that we have the actor type, this just defines what the actor methods that we're exposing, right? And so it can be a subset of your canister methods. And for MODCLUB, we do the same thing. We only expose a subset that are necessary for other applications to integrate with us, but it can be, your full set if you would have you. But for this, it's pretty much the whole set. And then what we need to do is define the actual instance of that actor. So we'll do phone book actor equals actor, and then we're going to do one thing, and then it's a phone book actor type. So in order to actually call another canister using this method, you actually need the canister ID of the canister that you're going to call. So this could be your local canister ID, or it will be the canister ID that's deployed on mainnet. And it has to be hard coded in this way. I think we tried to do it so that it can be dynamically populated, and that might be fixed in a later version of DFX, but for now, we'll just have to grab the canister ID from DFX. And so let me just grab the canister ID for our phone book. So that's the canister ID that I'm going to call. Okay, so now what I can do is actually I can use this phone book actor in my code. So let me just close this. So now I'm going to import the API from the SDK folder. And I'm just going to actually, just look at this. I can just call the actor. Okay, I can just replace this code and actually call the actor itself, insert name entry, and the same thing here. Actor.lookup name. Okay, so what this will do, hopefully if it builds, we'll call our main canister that's exposing that interface and insert the data into its hash maps instead of something locally within this other canister. So I just have to deploy this.
We have a comment that's much a question that from Byron. He says, I believe this API pattern you're advertising specifically for the SDK, the client interface, has serious performance implications since it's performing an inter-canister call to the canister with the phone book data.
That's a very good point. So as a result, you can't make query calls between canisters. That's just a limitation at the moment for inter-canister calls. They have to be shared queries, shared calls. So what you can do also is you can expose methods either via HTTP request to retrieve data. So for instance, for our asset canister solution, we allow the client to retrieve data using a query call via HTTP, and they just have to pass in a security token in order to retrieve that data from our main canisters or our asset canisters. But in this case, yes, you're right. It is a shared call, and it is definitely not the fastest in terms of lookup. So we're just going to deploy this. Oh boy, I knew that was going to get into a little bit of a expression site block, not please expected type.
I think live bug fixing is always helpful.
I know.
Anyone watching?
It's always a pain in the butt sometimes. I always okay, maybe it's just because I just had this missing some awaits here. Let's try again. Let me go a little bit farther.
In the meantime, can I ask a question? We have
sure.
a question from the audience. So for human verification, if an app uses the base layer with the added hurdle, say driver's license, would we have to do the whole human verification or just add the deficient piece? In this case, your driver's license?
Yeah, that's exactly. You would only have to do the challenge you haven't completed in the past for that application. So if they had three, let's say they had 3 challenges, you've already done the first 2 on another instance. You would only do the 3rd challenge that is required by the application.
Nice.
Okay. All right, so I actually have to deploy the app. Okay. So now we're just going to reload. Hopefully it loads. Great. Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is let's do a lookup. So who did I add before? Was it Jim? And there we go. So Jim's phone number is 555-747-222. But now we can also add someone. So let's say Dave. Dave's phone number. Insert or update. So we've inserted, and now we can go back to the original, and we can look up Dave. Dave's phone number is 555-777-3321. And so that's a very basic.
Can you mistype it? Can you put a typo in Dave to see?
Sure. Like Dave.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
No entry found.
Nice. You're not cheating. Good.
I'm not cheating. No. Yeah. And so it's a basic kind of way to expose your interfaces to other applications and package it up in a way that's just a little bit easier for them to do so. What you can do is also extend these in a fashion so that, let's say you have multiple environments, like a dev environment, staging, etc. You can create like a helper method that says, get phone book actor, and then pass in the environment name. And then instead of, passing maybe the phone book actor prod, they can put phone book actor dev and etc. So that's one technique that we kind of use for MODCLUB. And also, this, we didn't really talk about kind of the security aspects of this. So most APIs require you to have some kind of authentication token or security token in order to interact with the API in general. What you probably would want to do in that case is have some type of registration functionality, and so that your canister first kind of makes a request to register, and then the canister can send back either like a token that can be used in subsequent calls, or that canister is just registered in the main application, and so any calls from that canister can be checked that they're authorized, and then proceed to allow the execution of that code. So any questions so far?
Any questions so far? Not in the chat. So
okay.
Not in chat.
What we can do is, I have another method that we didn't actually talk about, which was subscriptions. So within MODCLUB, applications can register a callback that when a specific item has been voted on and has a decision made, we make a call. We call that callback so that the application can make the decision, such as what you saw with Nuance, to remove the voting, or sorry, the content. So here's so this is our main application again, and here's how the subscription code that's been defined. So this is very similar code to what you'll see in the PubSub example that Definity has provided, but first we define what the callback interface will look like. So here is a callback that is a shared function that accepts an entry, right? So whenever this basically means is that if you provide us with a function for the callback, it has to fit this kind of signature, and you'll accept an entry when we call that. And then the application also has, it keeps track of all the different subscriptions that other applications are listening to. So for instance, we're mapping it to the actual canister ID to the actual subscription callback. And then it allows you to subscribe to expose a subscribe function. So basically, this is what will be called when the application, the third party or other application wants to register their callback. And finally, it has this notify subscriber. So in this case, when an insert occurs, every single time that an insert occurs, we notify all subscribers, hey, there's a new entry. You can do something with it. Hopefully that makes some sense. And so what we're going to do is update our actor type and expose that within the candidate interface. So we'll call it subscribe. And it takes a, forgive me, I always forget this syntax. Right, so it's going to take a subscription, which we'll find in a moment. And we will need to define the subscription itself. So type subscription. Shared. Entry, and then, right, okay, one more thing.
The chat is excited to have MODCLUB for technical issues that we had today. It's your product is very much needed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't see all of it, so hopefully, it wasn't too bad. But subscription.
The less attention it gets, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's put this here. Subscription. So now that we added this to our candid, we can actually call it. But first, we still need to define our callback that will be executed. So we'll just call this like sub callback, and it takes entry. Oops. Nothing. And we're just going to print out, thank you, VS Code, autocomplete. It's going to print out just a debug, and that should be print, and that should be that. And so when this gets called, it will just call back, it'll just debug.print it out to command line. And then we actually need to subscribe to this callback.
You have the curly brackets not matching now on the bottom.
Here. Right?
Yes.
This method will just actually call the application to subscribe this specific callback. So we'll just go API.subscribe. So callback. Oh no, I think it's callback equals subcallback. I believe that should do the trick. Do I need this async? I don't think I need this async actually. Okay. So let's test this out. So we're going to do another, do this here. We'll do another DFX deploy. I don't have any bugs or typos while I wrote that. I always do, yeah. Unbound type subscription in API.ml. I'm sure people were catching that. Unbound type subscription.
If you caught a bug in the chat, please type it in. Not only questions.
Yeah, one sec. Equals entry subscribe subscription async. I don't know. That's quite bizarre. One sec. Build. Oops. I didn't change anything. So subscribe, subscription, callback, shared entry. Is there anybody pointing out something wrong? Okay, now we have a different one. Okay, 30. Field subscribes does not exist in type. Hello, it's right there. One second. Subscribe does not exist. Oh, maybe I called. Wait, API. Oh, well, that's right. That's why. Phonebook actor. My bad.
We can also go 5 to 10 minutes over time if
Okay.
if
Yeah.
you have time. So
I think we'll make it. I think we'll make it. There we go. Yeah. Great. Okay. So looks like we're done. So now what we'll do is we'll just add a completely new entry. But Andrew, you want to give me your phone number?
it is 0.
No, I'm just joking. Okay, so now I'm going to insert this. And
Can I give you my seed phrase as well, or?
Please.
Good.
Yeah. So then, we inserted on the main application a new entry, and then what we should see in DFX. Oh boy, come on. Hello. Sorry, let me just go back to the main one. Oh wait, notify subscribers. Entry, PID subscribe to entries, deep print, subject callback entry. Okay, so it should have called it. At least I should have gotten at least a notification. Oh, whoops. One more thing, I forgot to subscribe, guys. So, look. First, I need to subscribe before it can actually receive it. So now you'll see that this provider principal ID has subscribed. And now, well, Andrew's number is already done. So I'll just put mine. And let's just change that to.
If you give it the same number, would it complain?
Probably not. I don't think we're doing duplicate checks here. So sub callback Raheel's number. So that's the code that we had in the other function here, right? And so it successfully called the callback function. The main application successfully called the main application. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's basically how you can do a simple interface to your canister that makes it a little bit easier for other developers to import into their code and then call methods and what have you. What's nice is you can wrap your methods inside some helper functions so that if this interface or this kind of signature changes, you could make it in a way so that the application developer doesn't really need to do any changes themselves. They just continue to call that helper method, and then the helper method does whatever kind of data formatting or additional fields that are necessary to call. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the coding example. I'll be publishing this code with the full example as well. So for you guys to look it over and use in your application. And then also, if you want to use a reference, you can also check out the MODCLUB SDK that we have posted on GitHub that has kind of a similar implementation.
Can you copy that in the chat?
Yeah,
the link. That's odd. Did your Chrome? Okay, there you go.
Okay, so there we go. So yeah, that's it. Was there any more questions, Andrew?
I have some of my own. I really hope that the audience appreciates the live coding, because you guys have no idea how hard it is to do this live and then fix any issues that come along. So nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So I assume you as MODCLUB, you're storing the data in your canisters for these videos and the results of these tasks that people complete, and you're paying for the cycles. So my question is, how do you pass on the cycles to the developers integrating with MODCLUB?
Yeah, that's a good question. We will charge a fee based on if you're doing a check to see if users verified. And then that fee will in turn will be either in mod tokens, ICP, maybe even your own platform tokens that you have. And then we'll use that in order to basically buy cycles and then store them in our like main wallet so that we can continue operations.
And I assume that's somewhat the revenue model as well. So you have a certain percentage that you go above just the cycles that would be burned for storage, so that you can continue growing and developing as a team and product.
Yeah, exactly. We'll store the sufficient amount of cycles for these acid canisters so that they can grow and then maybe some extra buffer, but it'll be almost a fixed amount. And then we will we do cleanup of the data after about 5 days. Because we don't want to store everything on chain forever, because in the case of like a security risk or a leak, so we delete the data. So the as we get more users, they'll grow, but then as over time on a cadence, we'll start to remove the data from so that we don't that will also reduce our kind of like storage costs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned MODCLUB's tokens a few times. Are these going to be SNS tokens?
Yeah, so our plan is to integrate with the SNS and use it to distribute our tokens, and then also use it as our governance platform so that people, token holders can vote on how the MODCLUB evolves and the direction it goes in the future.
And can you comment on more or less the ICP costs for develop? Okay, my question is on a per moderation basis or per task completed basis. What does a developer get if you convert the 10? I think it was 10 MODCLUB tokens, right?
Sure.
If you try to convert that into ICP, and how much would this cost me as a developer who integrates with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't give like exact values of how much you as a moderator can earn, because roughly. I mean, it can be modified based on like what the application themselves want in terms of how many votes, et cetera. We'll be competitive with the market in terms of moderation. And so manual moderation has certain costs. It can vary from like 3 cents to like 10 cents to even like 25 cents, depending on the content that is being moderated. And so, we expect that the moderator could probably make, I don't know, maybe like $15, $20 per day doing this kind of work, but maybe more. Maybe when we introduce more products, it becomes even more. But that is like based on also like the token market at the time, et cetera. But we're trying to basically be competitive in the general market, because MODCLUB, like I said at the beginning, is going to be focused on not just the IC, but Web3 in general. And so we want to expose our services to, other blockchains or even traditional Web2 companies who want proof of humanity or content moderation.
So you're telling me that I can quit my Definity job if I want to become a content moderator?
I would say, probably hold on.
Wait a bit.
Wait a bit.
Sorry. Wait, let's wait a bit. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but maybe anything's possible.
Okay. And how many nodes posts were removed by mods so far?
That's a good question. We have over 360-ish now posts reviewed. I don't have the exact number of actual rejected off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up, but I would say it's probably a small handful, probably like 10 to 20. I don't think they're getting many malicious posts or abusive content at the moment, but the majority I've seen have been approved. Like the content, I mean, has been, within the rules of nuance.
I think one last question to wrap it up. You mentioned just integrating with other chains with Web3 or the Web3 platforms. How was the progress, and how do you plan to do it if you have the MODCLUB running on the IC?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few ways that we're thinking about it. One would be, exposing our interfaces just via HTTP. And so then other blockchains at the moment, they all make they all use like off-chain solutions like S3 or what have you. So they could integrate with MODCLUB, via those routes. Also, we've been looking into Chainlink that has, libraries and packages to make, API requests to different blockchains, and hopefully, that could be possible to make those requests within on-chain onto the IC. When the IC, I guess, has like outbound HTTP requests, that will be very, very helpful. So we can do everything on chain. So that meaning like we can send notifications about when content has been finalized as and moderated. And we can just make that HTTP request directly from the canisters. But in order to do that, now we would need some kind of off-chain solution, like an Oracle or something to send those notifications out.
And I assume you have enough development just on the IC before you started integrating the other chains. So you're not going to be bored and look for
Yeah, we're not going to be bored. There's lots and lots of stuff to do. Lots of cool things coming down the pipeline too. We have something very interesting we're working on for the hackathon that we're excited to show. Yeah, there's always so much stuff to do, and we have some really cool partnerships too coming down the line as well. So we're very excited about just doing work on the IC right now.
Awesome. All right, thanks a lot, Raheel, again, and anyone developing social dapps for the IC in the chat and watching on Twitter and YouTube, please consider integrating MODCLUB. They're amazing, and yeah, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you so much.
It's been a lot of fun.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.